Okay, so to continue, we'll answer problem 4. Mulave Cabinet Company manufactures custom cabinets for modular and prefabricated housing companies. During the current period, an order for 1,000 custom cabinets was begun on Job 636 for Villar Housing Company. Custom jobs are billed at 150% of total cost. Total costs charged to job number 36 are as follows. So we have direct materials, 92,000, direct labor, 3,000 hours at 12 per hour, and then for our factory overhead, we have 24 per direct labor hour. Upon inspection, 100 cabinets were found to have defects. Direct materials costing 4 pesos per unit and 1/4 hour of direct labor are required to correct each defective unit. Factory overhead is charged to production on the basis of direct labor hours. So, there are two questions. Number 1, what is the cost per unit assuming the defective units are the result of an internal failure or employee error? Diba? And then for number 2, or letter B, what is the cost per unit assuming that the defective units are the result of a change in design specified by the customer after the units are completed? Okay? So just like what we did earlier, we will compute for the total cost of job 636. So we have direct materials of 92,000, direct labor amounting to 36,000, and our factory overhead, which is equal to 72,000. Oops. 72,000. So the total cost of job 636 is equal to 200,000. Now, after computing for the total cost of job 636, the next thing we're going to do is to compute for the cost of the total rework cost, diba? Total rework cost incurred. So, of course, the rework will entail direct materials, diba? So, dito natin lagay. So, yung rework cost natin, we have direct materials of 4 per unit, right? So, we have 4 multiplied by the number of defective units, which is equal to 100 cabinets. So, 4 times 100, we have 400. And then for direct labor, we have 1/4 hour of direct labor are required to correct each defective unit. So, since we have 100 defective units, and then each defective unit needs 1/4 hour of direct labor. 1/4 hour of direct labor. We'll multiply this by 0.25, right? And then multiply this by the labor rate per hour, which is equal to 12. We'll get 300. So again, how did I arrive at 25 hours? Right? So it was mentioned in the problem that you need 1/4 hour. 1/4 hour of direct labor for every defective units. So if that is the case, diba, syempre you need to rework 100 units, and therefore 1/4 hour multiplied by 100. Okay. Sorry. Hindi pala pwedeng ganun. Sige, so we have 1/4 hour. So basically, 0.25 hour. Diba? Ganun siya. So you have, wait. Saan naman? Okay, cell styles. Oops. Hindi. Number natin yan. 0.25 hour per unit ang kailangan. So basically, we have 0.25 times 100. You have 25 hours. And then you have 12 yung direct labor rate natin per hour. So, 25 multiplied by 12 will get 300. That's how we got 300 here. Okay? Kasi nga, basically, you can manufacture 4 units, diba? You can rework 4 units in 1 hour. Okay? So, now, for our overhead, of course, since our overhead is applied on the basis of direct labor hours, since we have spent 25 direct labor hours, we also have to apply overhead to the rework units, diba? So we have um, 25 hours multiplied by the direct labor, by the factory overhead rate, which is 24. So we'll get 600. Okay? So our total rework cost is equal to, I think, 1,300. Okay? So for the first scenario, internal failure tayo ulit, 'di ba? The defective units is due to the internal failure. We have to copy the total cost of job 636, and since internal failure naman siya, 'di ba? The specific job will not shoulder the cost of the rework. Diba? So, we'll record the cost of the rework as follows. So, we have to debit factory overhead control. And then credit tayo ng raw materials inventory for 400. Credit wages for 300, and then we also have the credit factory overhead control for the applied overhead amounting to 600. Now, again, do not be confused, okay? It is okay to debit and credit the factory overhead control account at the same time, because every time you debit the factory overhead control account, diba, the amount that you have debited is added to the total actual overhead. And then every time you credit the factory overhead control account naman, the amount that you credited is added to the applied overhead. So that is okay. Some people, what they do is they offset na nila yan, di ba? So if this is 1,300 and then 600, the difference, which is 700, yun na lang yung dinedebit nila to the factory overhead control account. But baka malito lang kayo, so might as well, di ba? Pagsabayin nyo na lang yung debit and credit. Okay? Now, since, as you can see, there is no debit or credit to the work in process account, meaning the total cost of job 636 will remain the same at 200,000. Okay? And then, syempre, we are asked for the cost per unit, and to compute for that, syempre, we have to divide this by the number of units that we have produced. So, since we have already reworked the defective units, diba, we can still deliver the 1,000 units to our customer. So, the cost per unit is computed as, we have 200,000 divided by, we have 200,000 divided by 1,000. Ay, ano nangyari? Sorry. 70. Yeah. We have 200 per unit. So this is our answer for question A. Okay? Sige. So next, for letter B, assuming that the defective units are the result of a change in design specified by the customer after the units are completed. So basically, we have exacting specifications of the customer. Exacting specifications. So, if that is the case, syempre, mangyayari dyan, our entry will change, diba? Since it is the customer's fault, that's why we have to incur the rework cost, diba? So, the entry will be a little bit different. So, instead of charging the factory overhead control account, we will debit work in process job 636 instead. Okay? So, will add the total rework cost of 1,300 to the cost of job 63613. Okay? So, basically same naman, 'di ba? The computation of the total rework cost will not change kasi wala naman ding binago dun sa given information about the rework. So, the only thing that changed is the account, 'di ba? Wherein we charge the rework cost. Earlier, we charged it to the factory overhead control account, and now we charged it to the work in process job 636. Okay? So, how will this affect the total cost, 'di ba? Total cost, actually tinatanong pa rin pala cost per unit, 'di ba? Cost per unit. So, if that is the case, we have to copy the total cost of job 636 before any rework, and then we have to add the rework cost. Okay? So, why do you need to add the rework cost? Again, based on the entry we prepared, we debit the work in process job 636 account. So, we have to add 1,300, and then the total cost of job 636 after rework, total cost after rework is now at 201,300. Of course, the number of units will not change, diba? So we will still deliver 1,000 units to our customer. So we have 1,000 units. So 201,300 divided by 1,000. The cost per unit after the rework is now at 201.3. So again, because it is the customer's fault, the cost per unit of the order increase, diba? So if this will be the basis of your billing price or selling price, diba? The selling price will be a little bit higher. Okay? Kasi nga may difference na eh. Hindi na siya kumbaga nadagdag na even the rework cost na mapapatungan natin siya ng markup. Okay? So that's it for problem 4. Okay? Now, we proceed to problem 5 and then later on, yung problem 1, yung hinili natin kanina. So, for problem 5, assume that 50,000 units are put... what happened? Yeah. Assume that 50,000 units are put into production for job 001 and the total cost of production was 1.5 million. Normal spoilage for general production is estimated to be 2.5%. At the completion of production, only 47,000 units were good. The remaining units were classified as spoiled and had a salvage value of 7 pesos each. Management considers spoilage to be normal to the general production process and includes normal spoilage in the predetermined factory overhead application rate. Okay? So, for problem 5, we are going to discuss the difference between a normal and an abnormal loss, diba? So, basically, a normal loss is already expected in the production process, diba? So, basically, no matter how efficient you are, diba, nagkakaroon talaga ng shrinkage. A perfect example of this is siguro for manufacturers of kakanin, diba? So, pag kumain kayo ng kakanin, we have what we call the latik. Yung latik kasi, paano siya nagagawa? Basically, nagagawa yan. You start with coconut milk and then papakuluan mo siya ng papakuluan until such time that na ma-reduce siya So, mahihiwalay yung latik na doon sa coconut oil. Mahihiwalay na siya. So, basically, ang nangyayari dyan is that even if you, for example, you started with 5 liters of coconut milk, you will not end up with 5 kilos or 5 of with that much latte kasi nga hindi ganun yung production process. Talagang humihiwalay siya and therefore yun yung tinatawag nating normal spoilage. Kahit wala kang natapon, walang may kasalanan, talagang umuunti siya. So, since normal spoilage is um, expected, di ba? Expected in the production process, no matter how efficient you are, di ba? We include the cost of this estimated normal spoilage in the predetermined overhead rate. Basically, since meron ka ng data from the previous years, you already know what is normal for you. So, for this problem, the normal spoilage, their threshold is at 2.5%. So, no matter how many units they produce, diba, no matter how many units they produce, basta yung loss nila does not exceed 2.5% of the total production for the period, normal sa kanila yon, okay lang sa kanila yon. But, syempre, hindi rin may iwasan na bukod dun sa normal shrinkage or yung normal loss natin, nagkakaroon pa ng ibang losses, 'di ba? So anything in excess of this threshold is considered as abnormal. So yung abnormal loss natin, I forgot to tell you. Yung normal loss, charge siya sa factory overhead control, again, as actual overhead. But for yung abnormal naman, anything beyond this threshold, which is 2.5%, will be considered as a period cost. So, expense outright siya. Okay? Sige. So, basahin niyo yung handout. Nandun naman lahat. So, we go back to the problem. Diba? So, the questions are as follows. When accounting for the spoilage of job 001, what is the total amount of cost to be removed from the work in process inventory? And then, how much is the manufacturing cost per good unit delivered from the customer? Sige. So, basically, it is safe to assume that every time you have a normal spoilage, diba, internal failure yon, diba? We can never have a normal spoilage due to the exacting specification of the customer. Kasi kung exacting specification ng customer yon, diba, hindi, kumbaga, it is not the company's fault, no? So, sige, this is an internal failure. So, what will happen, diba? So, let us prepare the journal entry. Okay? So, not the journal entry. So, ang gagawin natin ngayon is to compute for the normal spoilage, 'di ba? We have to determine how many units is considered as normal spoilage and how many units are considered as abnormal spoilage. Okay? So, basically, yung total units natin put into production is equal to 50,000. But we have only ended up with 47,000 good units. Okay? 47,000 good units. So therefore, we have total spoiled units of defects. We have 50,000 minus 47,000, 3,000 spoiled units. Okay? So, to compute for the normal loss, diba? So, basically, we have yung units put into process, which is 50,000, diba? Multiplied by the threshold set by the company. So again, there is no uniform threshold. It is the company who sets or who determines kung ano yung normal for them. Okay? So we have 2.5%. Okay? So now, ito yung normal loss natin. Normal loss threshold is equal to, I think this is 1,250 units. So, ibig sabihin, diba? So, yung total spoiled units natin kanina Total spoiled units is equal to 3,000. And then, bawas mo dyan yung normal loss mo. So, the normal loss is equal to 1,250. So, we have an abnormal loss of 1,750 units. This is our abnormal loss. Okay? So, sige. So, what will happen now? Anong mangyayari ngayon dito? Diba? So, sabi dyan kasi, hindi naman maapektuhan. Meaning, the entries that we will prepare or the procedure that we follow whenever we have spoilage or defects will not change. Ganun pa rin. No? So, kanina, nagkaroon tayo ng spoilage and then, ang ginawa natin is that we have set up a separate inventory account for the spoiled goods, diba? Ganun pa rin po. Ganun pa rin yung gagawin natin ngayon. So, sige, entryhan natin to. So, our entry is to debit spoiled goods inventory, diba? So, again, the spoiled goods inventory is always recorded at its net realizable value. So, we have 3,000 spoiled units multiplied by 7, and we'll have 21,000. Now, since it is the loss or the spoilage is caused by an internal failure, diba, we will credit the work in process account, work in process, job 001 account for the total cost of the spoiled units, diba? So, let us compute kasi the total cost is equal to 1.5 million. So, itong 1.5 million na to, this was incurred for a total of 50,000 units. So, ibig sabihin, yung cost per unit natin, so we have 1.5 million divided by 50,000, we have a cost of 30 per unit. So, why did I compute for that? Kasi nga, diba, since the spoilage is caused by an internal failure, we have to remove the total cost of the spoiled goods inventory from the work in process subsidiary ledger. Hindi lang yung net realizable value yung tatanggalin natin. So, to compute, we have 3,000 spoiled units multiplied by 30 per unit and we'll get 90,000. Okay? 90,000. So, the total loss, syempre, the total loss amounts to how much? Magkano yan? So, 90 minus 21,000, I think this is equal to 69,000. However, you cannot charge everything to factory overhead control. Kasi nga, di ba, out of the 3,000 spoiled units, only 1,250 units is considered as normal loss. So, yung normal loss natin na to, na 1,250, the amount of this loss will be charged to the factory overhead control account. So, we have factory overhead control. So, how do we compute for the cost, diba? So, ang mangyayari ngayon dyan, we have to get the difference between the cost per unit, which is 30, and the salvage value or scrap value of the spoiled units, which is equal to 7. So, basically, the difference between the two is yung loss natin per unit. So, 30 minus 7, we have 23. Yeah, we have 23 per unit. So, to compute for the amount of our normal loss, diba, the cost of the normal loss, we have 1,250 multiplied by 23, which is our loss per unit. We have 28,750. And then, the abnormal loss naman will be, syempre, charged to another account. So, pwede naman nating pangalanan na abnormal loss na lang yan. So, we have 1,750 multiplied by 23 and we'll get 40,250. So, pag kinompute natin to, sorry, we have a sum of 90,000. Balance na po yung entry natin to record the spoilage. Okay? To record the spoilage. So again, the abnormal loss account is considered as part of other expenses. Diba? So yung classification niya, it is not a general and administrative, it is part of other expenses. Okay? So tingnan natin. Let us go back to the questions. When accounting for the spoilage of job 001, what is the total amount of cost to be removed from the work in process inventory? So based on our entry, diba, the amount that we have removed from the work in process inventory account is equal to 90,000. And then, next, how much is the manufacturing cost per good unit delivered to the customer? So, the manufacturing cost per good unit will remain at 30 pa rin. Diba? So, bakit 30 pa rin? So, pakita ko sa inyo ha. Kasi, diba, we have the total cost, 30 pa rin yung sagot dyan. Okay? Total cost, we have 1.5 million. And then, bawas natin dito yung cost of spoiled goods, which we have determined at 90,000. I'm sorry. We have 90,000. Okay? So, cost of job, ano ba to? 001, job 001. After removing the cost of the spoiled goods, we have 1,410,000. And then, syempre, we will divide this not by 50,000 units, but by 47,000 units na lang. Kasi yun na lang yung good units mo eh. Diba? So, yung cost per good unit natin, we have 1,410,000 divided by 47,000 and we'll get 30. Diba? The cost per unit will not change because it is not the customer's fault. Diba? Internal failure yung reason for the spoilage, and therefore the cost per good unit, charged that will be charged to the customer will not change. So ayan po siya. So again to summarize, diba, normal loss is considered the company sets the threshold kung ano yung i-consider nila na normal, and then anything beyond the normal, the threshold set by the company is considered as abnormal. So the normal loss is charged to the factory overhead control account, actual overhead, and then the abnormal loss naman is expense outright. Expense outright siya, and it is considered as part of other expenses. Diba? So, ganun po. Okay? So, there. Now, we go back to problem 1. So, bakit po hinuli yung problem 1? I decided to answer problem 1 last because it's a little bit confusing because nagkaroon ng defect and nagkaroon ng spoilage at the same time. But, manageable naman. Okay? So, let us read the problem. Sabi dyan, Cool Company manufactures electric drills to the exacting specifications of various customers. During February 2021, Job 901 for the production of 1,100 drills was completed at the following cost per unit. So we have direct materials, direct labor, and factory overhead. So final inspection of Job 901 disclosed 50 defective units and 100 units of normal spoilage. So the defective drills were reworked at a cost of 5,000 and the spoiled drills were sold to a jobber for 15,000. So, question, what is the cost per good unit produced on Job 901? Okay? Sige, so tingnan natin to. No? The first step, of course, is to compute for the total cost of Job 901 before the defect tsaka yung spoilage natin. Defects and spoilage. So, we have direct materials, direct labor, and overhead. So, this is equal to 80. Direct material is 100, 80, and 120 for a total cost of 100. 300. And then, we will multiply this by the number of units, diba? Units produced, which is equal to 1,100. So, yung total cost of job 901 we have is equal to, I think, 330,000. So, this is the total cost of job number 901 before the defective units at saka yung spoiled units natin. Okay? So, we go to the second paragraph. Final inspection of job 901 disclosed 50 defective units and 100 units of normal spoilage. So, the defective drills were reworked at a cost of 5,000 and the spoiled drills were sold to a jobber for 15,000. So, we have to tackle each type of loss separately. Okay? So, we start with the defective unit. So, sinabi kasi dyan that exacting specifications daw of various customers. So, basically, when you see the phrase exacting specification, it means that the customer is at fault, diba? Nagkaroon ng defect, nagkaroon ng spoilage because of the customer. So, because of that, the rework cost for the 50 defective units will be charged to job 901. So, let us prepare the entry for that. So, our entry is to debit work in process, job 901. The total rework cost is equal to 5,000, right? And then, syempre, we have to credit various accounts since the problem did not mention the specific accounts, diba? Or ano yung kailangan ba in order to rework the defective units, okay? So, since we have charged the work in process job 901, madadagdagan yung total cost natin ngayon. So, we have rework cost charged specifically to job 901. So, madadagdagan siya. Okay. So, this is our entry to record the defective units or the rework of the defective units. Okay? So, next, yung spoilage naman natin, di ba? We have 100 units of spoilage daw. And then, these spoiled drills were sold to a jobber for 15,000. So, remember, the procedure will not change. We will still transfer the net realizable value or the net realizable value of the spoiled units to a separate inventory account, which is the spoiled goods inventory account. So, you have to debit spoiled goods inventory. So, we have 15,000 na pala yun. No? Kasi yun na yung nakalagay na nabenta na daw at 15,000. So, basically, that is the net realizable value. This time, since it is the customer's fault, kasi nga, exacting specifications tayo. Diba? We will only remove the net realizable value of the spoiled units from the work in process subsidiary ledger. So, 15,000 lang din. Okay? So, kung ito, inadagdag natin, if the rework cost will be added, yung NRV ng spoiled units natin will be deducted naman. So, we have 15,000. Okay? Sige, wait, para maayos. 15,000. Okay? So, after this, syempre, ang tanong sa atin, what is the cost per good unit produced on job 901? So, sige. The revised total cost of job 901 after the rework and the spoilage is now equal to 320,000. 320,000. Now, how many units will be delivered to the customer? Diba? So, yung units produced kasi natin is equal to, I'm sorry, units produced is equal to 1,100. And then, of course, defective units will not be removed from the total good units kasi nga, pag ni-rework mo siya, mabibenta mo na ulit siya as good units. And therefore, ang ibabawas lang natin dito yung spoiled goods. Okay? So, yung spoiled goods natin, ilang units ba yon? We have 100. 100. And therefore, yung total good units natin is the difference between the two, which is equal to 1,000. So, natin dito, good units, we have good units is equal to 1,000, and therefore, cost per good unit delivered to the customer, we have, I think this is 320. Yeah. 320. So, this is our answer for question number 1. So, as you can see, diba, nagkaroon ng increase. Earlier, the total cost per unit is only 300. But because of the rework and the spoilage, diba, the cost per good unit delivered to the customer increased to 320. So, that's it for spoilage and defects in job order costing.